I spent my previous life conquering nations and destroying anyone who stood in my way. Then I was reborn as a young girl and finally gained the freedom I never had. But this peaceful new world won't stay quiet for long. There was once a man who piled up countless bodies beneath his feet and ruled over an entire continent. His eyes were as cold as ice, and the common people knew him by a terrifying name, the Blood-Stained Emperor. But that man's story had already ended. Or at least, that was what everyone believed. The story begins with our main character Juliana, standing inside her father's royal palace. She has no idea that her entire life is about to change in a matter of moments. Her father calmly informs her that the family she will marry into has already been chosen. Her future husband is none other than Marquis Hogan. Juliana freezes in shock. Her father then explains that Hogan has a particular interest in girls around her age, and he especially likes Juliana's appearance. In fact, he paid a very large sum of money for the marriage. Then, with a cruel smile, her father claims that he wants to respect Juliana's wishes. If she truly refuses the marriage, he says he will allow her to do so. However, there is one condition. She must leave behind the necklace around her neck. That necklace is more than just jewelry. It is proof that she belongs to the Silvius family. Without it, Juliana will no longer be recognized as a noble. She will be cut off from the family and forced to live as a commoner. The thought terrifies her. She has nobody else to rely on, and she has no idea how she would survive outside the palace. All she ever wanted was the chance to live her own life. But then, an unfamiliar memory suddenly flashes through her mind. A battlefield. Bodies are scattered everywhere as soldiers stare toward a terrifying man standing among the bloodshed. Someone asks who he is. Another person answers that he knows the man's name. He is Julius, the cold-hearted emperor. And then Juliana remembers the truth. In her previous life, she wasn't a helpless noble girl. She was a warrior who had spent her life on the battlefield. More accurately, she realizes that the person who once lived as Emperor Julius was actually her. She remembers thinking that when she died, she would probably go straight to hell. Yet somehow, instead of ending up in hell, she was given another chance. She had been reborn into this body. Her father interrupts her thoughts and gives her a final choice. Marry as ordered, or be banished. Juliana quietly looks down at the necklace around her neck. Then, without hesitation, she removes it. Her father and the servants can only stare as she crushes the precious necklace right in front of them. And with a bright, almost cheerful smile, Juliana gives her answer. She refuses. The entire room falls silent. Her father and the servants are completely stunned by what they have just witnessed. Juliana doesn't even look back. From this moment onward, she tells her father, they have nothing to do with each other. As she turns away, her father is left furious and bloodied from the shattered necklace. Juliana herself is surprised by how strongly she reacted. For a moment, she had actually wanted to decapitate him. She realizes that her mind and this new body still haven't completely adjusted to one another. As she prepares to leave the palace, her father desperately calls after her. But Juliana simply tells him that she has no further business with him. Then from behind, one of the family's loyal servants calls out to her. "Young miss." Juliana stops. As she stands there, another realization crosses her mind. Her biggest problem right now is this body. In her previous life, she had spent years fighting on battlefields. She survived by using everything at her disposal. But this body is completely different. Simply existing in it feels dangerous. Compared to the body she once had, this one is incredibly weak. Still, there is something unusual about it. The magical ore within her body is remarkably powerful. Juliana immediately becomes interested. Instead of complaining about her weakness, she decides to strengthen herself. Training this body might actually be worth it. She looks back toward the palace and notices that everyone she left behind has already recovered from the shock. Juliana can't help but admire their ability to regain their composure so quickly. But then her loyal servant approaches her. A familiar memory surfaces. This man was the only person in the entire family who had genuinely cared for Juliana. He had protected her when she was powerless and supported her when she had nobody else. The loyal servant kneels before her and addresses her respectfully. Juliana looks down at him. She can't explain exactly why, but something inside her has changed. She is no longer the powerless child who needs someone else to protect her. She can protect herself now. Before leaving, Juliana tells him that she is indebted to him and that she will never forget his loyalty. The servant asks her to come back and visit once everything has settled down. Until then, he tells her to stay healthy. Juliana finally leaves the palace. She mounts a horse and rides away with the confidence of someone who has spent an entire lifetime on the battlefield. The people in town are stunned when they see her riding through the streets. They can't understand who this strange girl is. Eventually, Juliana stops when a young girl approaches her and asks who she is. The question makes Juliana pause. The girl notices something unusual about her and compares her to the emperor from the fairy tales. Juliana is surprised by the girl's sharp intuition. She decides that revealing her true identity would only cause trouble. So instead, she introduces herself as Julie. From now on, that will be her name. At the same time, Julie realizes something else. After her death, her soul somehow ended up inside this girl's body. She has only just begun remembering the girl's memories, and she feels guilty for taking over her body. But the girl doesn't blame her. Instead, she accepts Julie. The girl then mentions the huge man from her memories, and Julie admits that she has only encountered him once. Still, Julie promises to protect her. She tells the girl that no matter what happens, she will make sure all of her wishes come true. If some monster appears, Julie will deal with it. There is nothing for the girl to worry about. The girl happily agrees to stay with her. Then she asks what they should do next. Julie already has a destination in mind. They are heading toward the city of Karthus. The girl is surprised that Julie knows about the city. Julie explains that she remembers a place a little farther ahead that should be suitable for them. But the girl suddenly realizes something shocking. Julie can see her memories. The revelation leaves her completely stunned. Julie then casually mentions the stuffed bear she sleeps with every night. The girl is even more shocked. She asks if Julie also knows the bear's name, Pasuk. Julie admits that she didn't actually know its name. She only saw it through the girl's memories. The girl realizes Julie has been teasing her and complains that she is making fun of her. Julie laughs and explains that she obviously can't know everything. If she needs information in the future, she'll simply ask the girl. For now, they'll have to depend on each other. As they continue traveling, Julie looks up at the sky. Compared to the world she knew in her previous life, this one feels incredibly peaceful. Her old life had been filled with war, bloodshed, and death. Now, she has been released from the throne of the emperor. And Juliana has also been freed from her father's control. For the first time, neither of them has anyone telling them what to do. Julie smiles. She decides to approach this new life the same way she approached everything in her previous one. Anything standing in her way will simply be cut down. But this time, there is something different. She finally has freedom. And she wants to see what that freedom feels like. She tells the girl that they should explore the outside world together. The girl agrees. For the first time, the journey ahead actually sounds exciting. But their peaceful trip doesn't last long. Suddenly, the girl points toward the forest. She notices something strange and asks Julie what it is. Julie turns her attention toward the sky. Then her eyes widen slightly. She realizes that this is actually a first for her. In her previous life, she had never needed to teach someone what every strange creature in the world was. A shadow suddenly moves across the sky. Both of them look up. A giant dragon is flying overhead. The girl immediately identifies it as a wyvern, a dangerous species of dragon. She knows they can't stay there. They need to escape immediately. But Julie doesn't even look frightened. Instead, she calmly checks their direction. The city of Karthus is somewhere ahead. And Julie refuses to let their destination be reduced to rubble. The girl desperately warns her again. But Julie has already made her decision. She stretches her body as if preparing for a simple workout. Then she launches herself toward the flying dragon. In the blink of an eye, the wyvern is crushed into the ground. Blood splashes across Julie's hand and covers her face. Yet instead of showing fear, she looks completely fearless. She turns toward the girl as if nothing unusual has happened. To Julie, there is nothing in this world worth fearing. The girl can only stare at her in disbelief. She finally realizes just how powerful Julie really is. Julie casually explains that during her imperial days, a pathetic dragon like this could have been defeated with a single finger. Even her former subordinates could have taken it down with one hand. That was simply the level of strength she was used to. But now, Julie is ready to show what happens when an emperor decides to get serious. Just then, voices can be heard coming from deeper within the forest. Julie turns toward the sound and tells the girl to stay right there. She has the perfect seat to watch what happens next. But before Julie can see who is approaching, a figure appears through the forest. A man is riding toward them on a black horse. The girl looks at him closely. Then her expression suddenly changes. She stares at Julie in disbelief and asks the question that could change everything. Is that His Majesty Julius? Claudius stands before the Lady Emperor with his head respectfully lowered. After so many years, the two of them are finally standing face to face again. Juliana studies him for a moment before recognizing the man from her past. So, it really is you, Claudius. However, he calmly corrects her. He no longer goes by that name. In this life, he simply calls himself Cloud. Juliana's lips curl into a faint smile. Even after being reborn into a completely different era, he still feels exactly the same to her. You haven't changed at all. Cloud slowly raises his eyes toward her. But you have changed greatly, Your Grace. Juliana immediately stops him. She is no longer the emperor of the continent, and this is no longer their previous life. With a casual smile, she tells him to forget the formal title and simply call her Julie. Standing nearby, her friend looks completely confused. She has no idea who this mysterious man is or why Julie seems to know him so well. Juliana explains that Cloud was once the person who always stood behind the emperor. He was her loyal retainer, the man who would follow her even onto the battlefield without hesitation. After remembering their past together, Juliana can't help but find the situation almost unbelievable. Of all places and all times, the two of them have somehow met again here. Then she turns toward Cloud with complete confidence. For this man to become my enemy would be as impossible as seeing the sun rise from the west. Cloud is just about to report the current situation when something catches their attention. A disturbance is approaching. Before long, two riders come rushing toward them. One of them is a female knight with long red hair. It's Adelina. The moment she sees Cloud, concern immediately appears on her face. Cloud, are you okay? Her attention quickly shifts toward the dead dragon nearby. What happened to that dragon? The massive creature is already dead, but the way it was killed makes the situation difficult to believe. Whoever defeated it must have been an incredibly powerful warrior. Cloud casually takes the credit. I killed it. Adelina looks around, clearly trying to understand what happened. There isn't even a sword in sight. For a brief moment, she seems suspicious. But after looking at Cloud, she simply decides not to question him any further. If that's what he's saying, then that's apparently what happened. However, there is still one problem she refuses to ignore. Her eyes move toward Juliana. Are you going to explain who that child is? Cloud gives her a vague answer. Her identity isn't clear, but she is obviously the daughter of a noble family. For the time being, he will be taking responsibility for her. Adelina stares at him in disbelief. That explanation makes absolutely no sense. A noble girl somehow appears covered in blood beside the corpse of a dragon, and Cloud expects everyone to simply accept it? She demands a proper explanation. But instead of answering, Cloud just gives her a calm smile and says nothing. Then Juliana reaches out and takes Cloud by the hand. At that moment, Cloud makes his position perfectly clear. This is the only person I have ever sworn my loyalty to. Do you really need any further explanation? And with that, he leaves the rest of the cleanup to the others. As Cloud and Juliana walk away, the knights can only stare after them in frustration. Adelina shouts from behind. That wasn't an explanation at all, you idiot. But Cloud doesn't even turn around. A short while later, they finally arrive at his home. Juliana looks around after waking up and takes in the sight of the mansion. Her eyes wander across the place with clear interest. You have good taste, Cloud. I like that you kept it simple. Cloud respectfully answers that he simply prefers it that way. Then, with a serious expression, he reveals something that has clearly been on his mind. Did you know I would be in this era, Your Grace? Juliana listens quietly. Cloud lowers his head once again. If you weren't here, then there would have been no reason for me to be here either. That's why I wanted to be prepared, so that whenever I found you, I could greet you properly." For a moment, Juliana simply looks at him. Then a small smile appears on her face. Even after everything that happened, his loyalty has never changed. She quickly shifts the subject and asks if he has a change of clothes for her. Cloud immediately answers that he does. In fact, he has both men's and women's clothing and asks which one she would prefer. Juliana looks through his collection and is genuinely impressed. "I knew you would have something, but your selection is way too good." Cloud explains that there was no way he could allow his emperor to be inconvenienced. Once again, Juliana can't help smiling. "You really haven't changed at all." Since she now has the body of a young girl, she decides she doesn't mind wearing women's clothing. Cloud prepares to leave and wait outside. However, Juliana suddenly stops him. She wants his help. Noble dresses aren't exactly easy to take off alone. Cloud freezes. For a moment, he doesn't know how to react. The request has clearly caught him completely off guard. But after a brief pause, he regains his composure and respectfully accepts. "As you command." A little later, Juliana suddenly remembers something. She's thirsty. Cloud immediately asks what she would like to drink. Juliana gives him a knowing look. "I'm sure you remember what I like." Cloud doesn't hesitate for even a second. "Of course." Before long, he brings her wine. However, Juliana notices that he's still standing there and immediately tells him to bring a glass for himself as well. The two of them sit down together and raise their glasses. Cheers to their new life. Juliana takes a drink, but holding the bottle quickly reminds her of how different this body is from her previous one. She looks down at it with mild frustration. "This body is weak. A bottle of wine feels heavier than my longsword did in my past life." Still, after another sip, she relaxes. Maybe this new life isn't so bad after all. As she looks around the room, Juliana notices Cloud's impressive collection. "You really have quite a collection here. What were you planning to do if I never appeared?" Cloud gives her a simple answer. "I would have kept waiting." Juliana looks at him. There was never any guarantee that they would meet again. But Cloud remains completely certain. "There was no way I would fail to notice your Grace's magic core." Then, after a brief pause, he adds something even more unbelievable. Even if he had failed to find her in this life, he would simply reincarnate again and continue searching for her in the next one. For the first time, Juliana is genuinely touched. A warm smile slowly appears on her face. What a loyal one. She reminds him once again that he can call her Julie. But Cloud still struggles to drop the formalities. Juliana points out that neither of them is the Emperor anymore. After a moment, Cloud finally gives in. "I apologize, Lady Julie." She doesn't mind if he drops the formal language completely, but Cloud clearly isn't ready for that yet. Soon, he asks her an important question. What do you plan to do from here on? If she wishes to take control of the military again, he is ready to serve as her right-hand man. In fact, if she wants it, the two of them could take over the entire continent once again. Juliana laughs. Honestly, it doesn't sound like a bad idea. But after seeing the world in this new era, she realizes something important. Neither of them truly knows what it means to be free. Their conversation slowly turns toward their previous life. When Juliana's father, the late emperor, died, she was only 12 years old. What followed was a brutal struggle for succession against her own siblings. Then came a civil war. After that, they were forced into war against neighboring countries. And just when they believed they had finally conquered the continent, another enemy appeared. The demons. The memories of their past return one after another. War after war. Battle after battle. There was never a moment when they could truly rest. Juliana quietly remembers how they had lived. We never had a single moment to breathe, did we? If they had stopped fighting, they would have been killed. Cloud reminds her that she had protected the common people. But Juliana looks at her new life differently. Yes, I protected them. But while I was protecting them, I never truly understood how they lived. That's why she wants something different this time. In this life, she wants to live for herself. Cloud listens without interrupting. Juliana continues. Maybe by living an ordinary life, she can finally understand whether all the fighting she did in the past truly had any meaning. She doesn't want to spend this life constantly fighting. She wants to enjoy it. She wants to live as an ordinary person. And most importantly, she wants Cloud to remain by her side. Cloud immediately understands what she means. Then Juliana looks directly at him. If you're willing to serve me in this life as well, then stay with me for a while. Cloud lowers his head. Then I shall give everything I have to serve you. For a moment, the two simply look at each other. Their previous life may be over, but the bond between them has followed them into this new one. Later that night, Juliana lies on the bed and calls out to him. Cloud, are you there? Cloud immediately responds. Did you call for me? Juliana wants to wash away the sweat from her body. Cloud suggests taking a bath. For a brief moment, she looks confused. In her previous life, bathing like this wasn't something she was familiar with. But she eventually agrees. As she relaxes in the bathtub, she becomes fascinated by the magic tools around her. These kinds of things didn't exist in their previous era. Yet they are surprisingly convenient. Cloud explains that many different magic tools have become popular outside as well. While soaking in the water, Juliana suddenly asks him something more serious. Cloud, how much do you remember about your past life? Cloud becomes noticeably quieter. He doesn't seem eager to talk about it. He finally says that most of it is vague. Juliana asks whether he remembers her death. Did he perhaps live longer than she did? But Cloud gives her the same answer. No. I don't remember you dying either, Lady Julie. Then he explains something strange. Both of them were somehow reborn while they were still alive. That means Cloud's memories only continue until just before the final battle. After that, everything disappears. Juliana realizes that the same thing happened to her. Then another question suddenly enters her mind. Do you remember the Demon Lord? Cloud tries to remember. But no matter how hard he thinks, he can't recall the Demon Lord's face, name, or even the people who were present. Juliana quietly repeats the words to herself. The Demon Lord. But Cloud tells her that continuing to think about it won't help. Eventually, Juliana announces that she's coming out of the bath. Cloud leaves her fresh clothes outside. Everything seems normal. Until Juliana suddenly asks a question that leaves Cloud completely uncomfortable. Cloud, where did you put the underwear? Cloud immediately freezes. Meanwhile, Juliana dries her wet hair with a towel, completely unaware of how awkward the situation has suddenly become. Unfortunately for Cloud, that is the exact moment Juliana's friend arrives. She cheerfully greets them. Good morning. Then she sees the scene in front of her. Cloud is standing there awkwardly with his hand covering part of his face, while Juliana is fresh out of the bath. Her expression immediately changes. In her eyes, there is only one possible explanation. She turns toward Cloud in outrage. You brought a child into your home, you pervert. Cloud immediately tries to defend himself. It's not like that. But she doesn't listen. She stares at him with complete disappointment. I didn't think you were that kind of person. Cloud can only stand there, realizing that the situation has somehow become worse than before. Juliana watches the argument with a confused expression. There are a lot of things I don't understand. And first among them is whatever is happening right now. Her friend remains furious. Cloud keeps insisting that she's completely misunderstanding the situation. But the damage has already been done. She immediately warns him. Don't get any closer.